We turn now to the PDP's National Publicity Secretary, Ememobong, to speak to the latest judgment. Thank you very much for joining us. You've hailed this judgment as a triumph for internal democracy and the cohesion of the party. But is it really? Because there are still factions. How do you reconcile all of this, and where do you go from here?
Good evening. The judgment aligns the fact of the existence of the convention, which was done according to our party's constitution, with the law. What's the law? The position of the law is that internal party affairs are non-justiciable, as it were. And as you've said, the case was taken up by a party member who wanted to enforce his fundamental human rights. And it was on the basis of this same case that an order from my lord was given for the holding of the convention. And so where this leads us to is that despite the pendence of the matters at the Court of Appeal, where judgment has been reserved in the three matters having been heard some days ago, where it leads us to is the fact that the rule of law does not segregate. When the law posits that a thing be done, it must be done. And what is it? Political matters are non-justiciable. The judiciary must shy away, must run away, must abandon politicization of the judiciary so that the waters of justice can be clean. And you see that in most of the cases where the judiciary has been blamed for one thing or the other, it's because of political cases. So in terms of the conciliation, the Turaki-led administration from Ibadan, right from when the convention was held, had stated clearly that we are going to be focusing on reconciliation. And we've been doing that since November. That reconciliation must be reconciliation for the survival of PDP, not reconciliation for the demise of PDP. Because some of our friends whom we had expelled insisted that the PDP must not, should not have a presidential candidate so that it can help railroad a one-party system and get the president back to the villa. And we are simply saying no. The party must have candidates in all offices. And it must be completed. We run a multi-party system, and that is what the PDP must do. We must file candidates. So we are reconciling, but we are reconciling to ensure the survival of PDP, not reconciling for the demise of PDP.
All right, let's look at reconciling things with INEC. As it stands, there is still that non-recognition with INEC citing the multiple court judgment. What happens now? How does this translate to official INEC recognition, especially when there are concerns about the possibility of further litigation?
Well, that is left for INEC. INEC would determine how they want to undertake that activity and why. But we do know that this is the last, if INEC continues to operate on the principle of the last judgment, this is the last judgment. And INEC does know, the chairman of INEC is the senior advocate of Nigeria. He knows that judgments, of course, must be obeyed. So it's a question INEC will have to answer how and why. But in terms of looking at what ought to be, they will state their position. Yes, there are multiplicity of cases, but all of these have been consolidated at the Court of Appeal. And we know that the judgment in one will cover for all of it, and that is what we call res judicata, and we hope that we can have voluntary res judicata where the cases litigation must have an end because the presidential election and elections generally are less than a year from now. So we're also we're talking internally to ensure that immediately all of these hindrances and hurdles are off. The party machinery, which is already working under the Turaki-led administration, will begin to undertake activities preparing it to offer a credible alternative to the ruling party.
All right, 2027 we keep talking about is just a couple of months away, and the dates for the presidential, all parts of the election has been announced. Even if this ruling stands, how does your party plan to reconcile this warring faction, this seeming disorganization within the party in time to put up a united front for the elections?
I told you that we're already done that. We're already doing that. From November, that has been the work of the rebirth movement under Turaki. We've been meeting with people, we've been realigning, we've been talking with people, and that's clearly what the party is doing. In preparation, which is why I said that no matter what happens, we at the party are already very prepared, and the machinery is being set in place. The organization department is working doubly hard to ensure, because when you look at the timetable, you see that it's a lot of pressure from which.
So let me be clear. Maybe I missed it. Let me be clear that this reconciliation effort, does it include the Wike faction of the party?
I'm sure that you're aware that at the convention in Ibadan, expulsions were done. And immediately expulsions are done, while we don't foreclose the possibility that people who were expelled, if they show remorse, can be readmitted. What we are saying clearly, which I'm sure you've also noticed during the FCT election, is the fact that the reconciliation is to preserve PDP, the dignity of PDP, and to make sure PDP wins election, not to reconcile so that you can have a presidential candidate who will step down for the president, or whom someone will come and do like it was done in Buhari and Amak, where someone will come and say a candidate of our party should step down. I'm sure that's not what you want. I'm sure that's not what Nigerians want. Nigerians want a viral opposition party capable of standing its ground and providing a credible alternative to the ruling party. That is the reconciliation that we are doing. If the people in the faction you've mentioned are willing and ready to play the role of an opposition, then we'll reconcile along those lines. We're not reconciling to weaken an opposition party. We are reconciling to strengthen an opposition party, because the opposition party, in line with the press, are the only defenders of the interests of the common people in any democracy. Right. So the reconciliation is on the basis of principle. The principle of strengthening the PDP as an opposition, not as an appendage of the APC, as an opposition party. That is what the reconciliation will be.
Okay. In the interest of time, quickly, I would want to get your thought. It seems everyone in the opposition has spoken. I don't know if yours is clearly out there. Let's hear your stance on the Electoral Act amendment as signed into law by the president and the controversies around it.
Yeah, we have spoken. At first, we issued a joint statement with the ADC and the NNPP, and we also issued another statement that the National Assembly was being clever by half with the introduction of Proviso 3. And we also took time to explain that this defeats the entire process. What the National Assembly has done with the Electoral Act amendment and the hurried manner with which the president signed clearly confirms that the federal government, the APC-led federal government, is unwilling to arrange credible elections, and which is indicative of the fear, the very mortal fear that they have, that in a credible election with a viable opposition, that their administration will be history by 2027. So it's a betrayal of trust, a humongous betrayal of trust by government on the people. The people stated clearly, people, stakeholders, different groups stated clearly what they demand, so real-time electronic transmission. And you saw the sham that happened in the Abuja election, where even in Kuje Central, which is not a hard-to-reach area, it took a long time. It took hours to transmit that result. We can't continue like this. So it's what they did is a huge betrayal of trust, which, as you saw in the FCC, it would only increase the voter apathy and increase the trust deficit that is already existent between the people and those governing.
Ini, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.